What's up, everybody? What's up, horror fans? It's Danny from the Last Cast here with Pete once again. Uh, we are going to be talking about the It movie right now, not It. Uh, the latest from Jordan Peele after Get Out and Us. Pete, are you ready to talk about this movie?
Nope.
I'm nothing but a fan of cheap and obvious jokes. So good to see you,
That's
Pete. I was
that.
just in your part of the world. I was just came 5 days down south in Louisiana.
Yes.
I am fatter and ready to just sit down and relax. But
Nice.
I got off a plane yesterday in the afternoon,
Hmm.
and my daughter it was staying with family out on Long Island. So I said, I'm back in New York. I can get back to my normal life. So I went to a 10 o'clock movie at the theater right down by my house, and it was the IMAX showing, and it was a fairly packed theater,
Yeah.
which I think again shows that the power of horror movies, just like with
Yes.
Scream earlier this year.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, when they do horror well, it makes a ton of money. Even
Hmm.
sometimes when they don't make horror well, it makes a lot of money. But
Right.
uh, what are your first thoughts? Wait, about
Yeah.
this movie. Was your theater packed
Yes,
down
it
in
was. Yeah, I saw it at Alamo Draft House with my wife, and I'm actually pretty jealous that you got to see it in IMAX because that would have been really cool to see that in an IMAX experience. I okay, well, yeah, I'll just get right to it. I fucking loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic. Right now San Diego Comic Con's going on, and there's all trailers and stuff that are dropping, and the Black Panther trailer came out, and Daniel Kaluuya is in that too, right? And it's just like so refreshing to see fucking movies that are like different. Like I can already tell by that Black Panther trailer that it just seems different. This movie, I was like, I haven't seen anything like this. I know a lot of people are going to be comparing this. I've seen a lot of like tweets and stuff about how it's like a Spielberg movie in a lot of ways.
so
Um, yeah,
I
we're going
mean,
to talk about that. Yeah, go
yeah, I mean, I if there's ever a way to overhype a movie to me,
ahead.
I saw at least five separate tweets who said this is Jordan
Jaw,
Peele's
Jaws.
Jaws.
Yep,
And
yep,
I went, "Oh no.
yep.
You can't do that. Don't
No.
put like basically I love Jordan Peele's Jordan Peele seems like such a down to earth guy, and I think you saw that a little bit with his that Twitter interaction that blew up
Mm-hmm.
where some film critic, I don't remember his name, he basically said, Jordan Peele's the greatest horror director of all time. Who else could put out three great movies like this? And Jordan Peele was like, calm down. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But John Carpenter and like
Yeah.
a bunch of other horror directors.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think he knows that, especially in the modern day with social media,
Yeah.
buying into your own hype is one of the
Mm-hmm.
easiest ways to flame out real
Mm-hmm.
quick.
Yeah.
And I, all I'll say is I went into this movie with that, like knowing about that Twitter interaction,
Right.
seeing, I had no spoilers, thank God, for this
Right.
movie beforehand, but I did see people saying it's Jordan Peele's Jaws.
Right.
And I went, oh man, there's no way this movie's going to live up to this kind of hype.
Yeah.
And not only did it, but I'm like so excited to see it again. Like,
Yeah.
Charlotte's coming home today. Maybe later tonight, maybe tomorrow morning because Athena is working. I'll sneak her off to like the 11 o'clock showing in the morning, and we'll go see it again.
Right.
I'm so excited to like watch this movie again, and I don't know. I'm curious. I think maybe later after we talk about it, I'd like to hear your ranking of Peele's three movies because.
I got it locked and loaded. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're going to see it again. Sherry actually wants to see it again. I kind of want to see it again just because it's so much to process when you watch it. You're like, you think it's one thing, and it has almost like a Shyamalan type twist in it, where you're like, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting that. Um, but Yeah, I understand the connection to Jaws. It feels very much like Jaws in the third act. It's like almost like, okay, this is this character in Jaws, this is this character in Jaws.
Exactly.
Um, I think it's a safe bet that this is going to be on our 2022 best of list. And for me, before we get into spoilers, I would say that it's like a little slow in the beginning, but the very first scene is awesome. And then like there's a chunk right in there right before the very end of the movie that is just like solid. And that's where it really shines. There's a very specific part where I think it's like, oh man, from there on, it is just like top 10 kind of movie, you know. And I
Yeah.
just want to get into spoilers and talk about it with you.
Yeah. But if anybody
Good.
wants to know what other movies are in our potential top 10, they can watch our mid-year review, which is up on the channel. And if they need any good movies to watch at home or some cool horror books and comics to read, they can check out our interview with Michael Moreci. Really cool guy. I can't get his name right, and I'm sorry. But yeah, we had a great interview with him. He co-wrote Revealer, which is on Shudder now,
Yes.
which was also mentioned on our mid-year review. And he does a ton of comics and novels, all sorts of things. Yeah, I'm ready to jump into it. Big spoiler warning. Do not watch this review until you have seen Nope. Because, yeah, it's really hard to discuss this movie without spoilers. It just is.
Totally agree. Yeah, yeah.
So there's your warning. 5, 4, 3, up, 2, 1. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So jumping right into it, you know, when you see what the influences were for this movie for Jordan Peele, I mean, you can clearly see it in the movie itself, right? Like I was just looking it up, and he was saying that he wanted to make a spectacle of a movie because he wrote it during COVID, like at its height, when the idea of like movie theaters were in question. And so, like, a big influence for it was like King Kong and Jurassic Park. And I think that's where, here, as we're getting into spoilers, that's where the movie goes in a direction you didn't necessarily think, where it's like this thing that keeps flying around their ranch is actually a creature. And that's where the comparison to Jaws comes in, right? Is that they're like hunting a creature. It's not aliens on a spaceship. It's a fucking big donut that can like contort and stuff and, and just sucks people up.
I thought there
Horrifying.
were some scenes that intentionally made it look like a flying cowboy hat as viewed from upside down.
Oh, okay. That's
You
cool.
know,
Yeah.
like as it's flying over with like the hole underneath, like the shape of the circle, I was like, it looks like a cowboy hat. But then like
Yeah.
you get clear images of it, and it does look like a 50s style flying saucer. And that was another thing, because they released a trailer to this movie
Yeah.
that very clearly shows
Yeah.
the thing in the sky.
Yeah.
Not just it flying through the sky, but there's like that scene of it chasing Daniel Kaluuya on the horse.
Yeah.
And I remember my first thought being like, no, why'd they show that? What are they doing? But even that, it doesn't give you a full vision. It is really a teaser, because that doesn't give away really much of anything. You know, going in, that they see something in the sky that looks like a flying saucer. So it maybe it confirms that there is something there, but it doesn't give you a clue what it is or any of the character beats of what's going to happen.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad that you brought up that second trailer because I remember seeing it right before Black Phone, and I was like, wow, this trailer is like way worse than the first trailer. The first trailer I thought was like very well cut. You didn't really know what was going on exactly, and it was like super exciting. And I saw that first trailer many times. Then I saw that second trailer that you're talking about, and I was like, oh man, that tells so much about the movie. Like it gives away so much. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't reveal everything about the movie. Um, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff in this movie that you know I still kind of don't understand to this day, and I kind of wanted to go over it like beat by beat with you. Like I think right off the bat we should talk about just the opening, right?
Yeah,
like the opening. Good.
Well, I mean, it was great. It was great to see Keith David. I wish we got to see more of Keith David. I was glad we got even a few flashback moments because he's such a great actor.
Yeah.
I didn't want that like 5 minute opening scene to be the only thing that we got from him. But yeah, he's he's out there on his horse with Daniel Kaluuya, who plays his son OJ,
OJ,
and
yeah.
which I mean, it's just really that one scene was very funny, but
But you know, that's
yeah.
not even the first scene, man. That's not the first scene in the movie.
Oh, the first. You're right. Gordy.
Gordy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie about horse ranchers and some supernatural alien ship in the sky starts with a bloody chimpanzee
Mhm.
in a TV studio
Yeah.
who we very quickly are able to grasp something has gone terribly wrong,
Right.
and you're waiting almost like for, okay, how does this gonna fit into this movie? Like,
Mhm.
this is a square peg. How is it gonna fit into the literal round hole that
Right.
is flying into,
Right.
and we find out later, which if you saw the trailers, Stephen Yeun from Walking Dead is in this. He was also in Mayhem, which was really cool. It's on
Yeah.
Shudder, and he was in the Oscar-nominated Minari, which came out last year or 2 years ago. Time is a
2 years ago,
construct. I
yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was great in his part in this movie, and he is the connection to Gordy the chimp. Do we want to get into Gordy the chimp and what all that was, or we want to come back to that?
Let's come back to that. Let's come back to that.
All right.
Because I wanted to kind of say something about Jordan Peele, just based on the scene that you were talking about. So one of my favorite types of comic books are comics that are made by Vertigo, which Vertigo's not around anymore. But Vertigo, like so many things that we talk about nowadays, are based on Vertigo comics. Like The Sandman was a Vertigo comic. Hellblazer, John Constantine, that's Vertigo comic. Then there's Why the Last Man. There's Vertigo, and Image kind of makes comics like that now, including like Saga and Paper Girls, which is another thing that's coming out. I feel like Jordan Peele makes Vertigo comics for movies, and that opening sequence with Gordy felt like it was like the first few pages of a Vertigo comic. It also kind of reminded me of like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, where all of a sudden you have this like intro, this cold open to an episode, and it's like, what the fuck am I even looking at?
I know. I like that. It's, as a teacher, it's like, you want to have a do now that has nothing to do with your actual topic, but it, like, the kids walk in, they look at it, they go like, what? And then it gets them like thinking. It's like a cold open like that is so useful.
Yeah.
And again, like, you're walking into this movie with certain knowns. You know
Yes.
it's a Jordan Peele movie. You know the cast from the trailer. And
Yeah.
because of that second trailer, you know full well that there is some kind of unidentified, or what do they call them? UPAs now? They didn't even explain what that is. But there's some kind of UFO flying in the sky. So, that's what you're walking in with. So when the movie starts with a bloody chimpanzee, like, and a body laying on the floor,
Oh yeah.
seemingly dead, you're left going,
Yeah. And the
it
shoe.
and it instantly pulls you in, because
Yeah.
now you're like, I know there's a UFO in this movie, but now I want to see what the hell's going on with this chimp. Like,
Right.
and it was really effective in the way that it really gets this movie going, and then
Yeah.
it jumps us to the ranch that we spend most of the movie on. But
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's just kind of thematically connected to the rest of the movie, right? It's not necessarily like part of the plot, even though it's like a little bit connected to the plot. We'll talk about Stephen Yeun and his connection, but like thematically, the movie is all about spectacle and our addiction to spectacle, and how we kind of mess with nature and mess with animals, and it backfires on us. That's kind of the main thing, I think, is like trying to use nature in our stories and it like backfiring against us. Um, and we see it with the Gordy, and then we also see it with the horses on the ranch. And there's this really great. We could kind of talk about the next sequence where we see OJ, and he's trying to like salvage his father's business. He's trying to do a horse like help out this horse that's in a photo shoot or like some kind of shoot for a movie or something. And you know that something's gonna fucking happen. You know the horse is gonna get triggered. And we get introduced to his sister, who's played by Kiki Palmer. I don't think I've ever seen her in
Now,
anything before. Have you?
if you have IMDb up, I think she was in Scream Queens.
Okay.
That
Okay.
show with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
I think she was in that.
Yeah.
But she's like a multi-talented star. She basically is the character when she does her intro. She's like, I also, by the way, I do a little singing.
You're right.
My theater was every time she opened her mouth, my theater was hysterically laughing.
Yeah.
And Daniel Kaluuya also just had in his like so like toned down performance, he's almost accidentally really funny, but like not in like a way that it goes against, because it's like they're brother and sister, so they have that kind of like bond of they don't need to say much. It was but that scene, it's funny because that scene with the horse where he's on the movie set and he's trying to be like a safety advisor to the movie stars and everybody else, and nobody's listening to him.
No.
And the tension, it's like this movie, this is what I love about Jordan Peele. He gets so much tension out of scenes that are not scary at all.
Right.
Like, because like you're sitting there as an audience member and you're going, oh my God, just get away from the horse. What are you doing? Like, just listen to the guy. You're going to get kicked in the face. You're going to get mule kicked by a freaking horse. Right. And it felt almost like, did you see Uncut Gems?
Of course. I love that movie.
That was the tensest movie I ever, like, I sat there at one point and I was like, and then I went, what am I doing? It's not my money. Like, I don't care, like that. Like, I don't care if Adam Sandler loses this bet. But like, that's how I felt at parts in this movie. We'll talk about it later. To me, the scariest individual moment of this movie turned out to be a prank that was pulled by a bunch of kids. But like, it was done so well that everyone in my movie theater was like, "Oh, get the fuck! What the like?" It was, it was, and I was just like, and he's pulling these big punches for these like kind of throwaway moments and like scenes that don't necessarily matter to the plot, and it's so great that he can do that. But that scene, and what's funny is you mentioned the way we deal with nature. I just came back from Louisiana. My friend has a dog. We went to my other friend's house. He has 3 dogs. All the dogs, you have a dog, they want to come over. Yeah, they want to come over. Every time you bring a guest over, I'm sure they bark because they're excited. Yeah. And then they settle down a little bit, and then the guests want to play and pet the dogs. And there's always those moments of trepidation where you're like, just, relax with the strange dog that you, and like, I'm sitting there and I got like 3 dogs who I've never seen before, like licking my face, like jumping up on me. And I'm like, and I'm a guest and I'm just like, oh, look at the dogs. And I could hear my mother's voice in my ear going, never put your face in a strange dog's face. And I feel like that message is in this movie so much. Like keep away from a horse's eye.
Yes. And don't make eye contact with a flying saucer that can like contort and become a balloon. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously that's a major theme in the movie, and Steven Yeun and his family and the people that go to his circus all kind of pay the price for that. And because we want to just kind of hit the major beats and stuff. He doesn't learn his lesson from being the kid on the set of this Gordy's home, and this being part of this massacre. We see kind of nature in this movie just be like real quick and brutal and violent. Like if those dogs had attacked you, that's what it would be like. Like your brain is all programmed to think that it's little green men in a ship and they have some sort of nefarious plot. But the Shyamalan kind of twist is No, this isn't a flying saucer with aliens in it. It is a like a being, like an animal, and Daniel Kaluuya really knows like how to react with or act with it because of his years of working on a ranch. His whole life, he's been a rancher, right? Um, and it's funny because two other things. Like the movie was originally going to be called Little Green Men, because kind of like referring to like money and stuff and aliens, right? And then you do see alien stuff in the trailer for Stephen Young's farm, his place called Jupiter's Claim. That's like his little kind of theme park. And they have these kind of weird alien costumes that look kind of like owls almost too.
I thought they were owl costumes that were just exaggerated.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah,
they're
and
creepy as hell.
yeah, and so as you're watching this movie, I feel like it doesn't really kick in and get great until we find out that the thing is a creature. That's when it's like, oh shit! And there's this really amazing fucking sequence that I want to talk about when we find out it's a creature. But um, like
But like also
go ahead.
the Stephen Young doesn't learn his lesson, but um, OJ and M, they Kiki Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya, they once they realize something's there, they go all in on trying to get the Oprah shot. They go to their local Circuit City
Right.
and they invest in like all these high tech cameras and the Angel, who is really funny in this movie.
Yeah.
I forgot. I don't know the actor's name.
Brandon Perea.
Yeah, he was excellent in this movie.
Agreed.
You could tell he's got like nothing going on, and he just immediately becomes wrapped up in whatever they're trying to look at.
Yeah.
And like he sets up the cameras, and they're like, and Daniel Kaluuya's just going, point it up,
Right.
higher. And so like he's like, why are you looking at the sky? What are you looking for? And they become almost like a trio. And they're out there, and again about the spectacle. They want to, if we saw, I would like to think if I saw a flying saucer flying over my head, that I would probably call like the police and the media, and I would try to like get my 15 minutes of fame, and later on in life write my story. Me and the Martians. How they took me out of the city, but I would also probably just get the fuck out of there, like get in my car or get on my horse and just go and don't turn back. It's like
like that's the funny thing about this movie, right? Is that like Daniel Kaluuya, he's so stoic, and I actually loved it. Sherry was kind of bothered by his performance a little bit because she thought that he did not react enough, like he did not get freaked out enough. But I actually liked it because it was like he's kind of like a badass, I mean, that's where the title of the movie comes from. At one point, he like looks up and there's a fucking flying saucer right above his head, and he's just like, nope. Right? I think he says it when he sees the little alien people too. Yeah, go ahead.
I also love how, and again, this Jordan Peele, and he did this with Get Out, and he did this with Us, but he plays with the cliches, and he knows as a black filmmaker that there are certain cliches about black people in horror movies, and the whole idea of I'm gonna go investigate, I'm gonna go off on my own. And the one scene where Daniel Kaluuya is in the
barn,
truck,
hostel, Oh no, truck.
And he's got the horse, in the I don't know what it's called, the carriage behind him.
Yeah.
And he goes to get out of the car, and he just closes the door and locks it. And he just nope. And I'm just like, it's just he's like he plays with the cliches, and his characters are smart for the most part. In terms of Daniel Kaluuya's performance, I genuinely loved it for the most part. It's crazy. He's an Oscar-winning actor now.
Sure
But yeah, he's got such emotive eyes, and I feel like he does more acting with his eyes than he does with his mouth. And Jordan Peele focuses in, and I mean that goes back again, I think, to the spectacle aspect. Like we're watching these spectacles take place. We're going to the movies to watch this. So you need an actor whose eyes can tell the story.
Yeah.
Also the movie does start with, his father dying mysteriously from falling debris from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And this is only 6 months later. So he's 6 months later, he's obviously grief stricken. He's obviously stressed out from a purely financial and, from a financial standpoint, he's very stressed out. We know that he's selling horses with the intention of buying them back.
Right.
So there's all of this stuff. Like he lives a life of solitude, essentially. Like Keke Palmer makes they have a series of dialogue at the beginning that their relationship isn't that close anymore. They don't get to see, like, she doesn't live on the ranch. She's there just for a few days at the beginning.
Yeah.
So he's effectively alone with his horses.
Yeah.
He's grief stricken because his father died in front of him 6 months ago, mysteriously. And he's, financially, he's in peril. And, like, I can imagine that this is a guy who's not going to have much to say. And I think he played that part perfectly. Right. And I think she counters him perfectly because, that lifestyle is obviously not for her. And she has more personality. Right. And she wanted to get the hell out of there and do her own thing. Like, she has a line where they talk about how, he got mad at her because she made a big deal at the movie set about trying to, like, sell off all of her other qualities. And he's like, leave your side hustles at home. And she goes, no. This is my side hustle.
Yeah.
Like, for him, there is no side hustle. This is his life. Like, he's the head of this ranch who's, dealing out horses for movie sets and commercials. And that is all he has left now. So he really conveyed that to me. And I think that his role with the thing in the sky, I think that what I liked about that is that he shows that, he has a connection to the animals. He's an animal trainer. He's able to pick up on things that we wouldn't get much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I actually really enjoyed his performance. It really, really feels like Jaws when they are trying to get their picture of the creature that they dubbed Jean Jacket, right? I was thinking that you could actually almost break down the Jaws characters and these characters in that sequence. Like Michael Wincott, who has this ridiculous name, Antlers Hoist. He's the cinematographer. He's Quint, obviously, that comes in at the end. Right?
Yeah.
And then I think like Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, like they're essentially like Roy Schneider, but then like
they're basically Brody, and Angel is Matt Hooper.
Richard Dreyfuss, right? And I was gonna say that like maybe M, her name is M, is the sister. I think that maybe she's like a little bit of the mayor too, right, of the town, because they're trying to get the shot, right?
I think maybe Stephen Yeun and his family are kind of like the mayors. I mean, because they're tempting fate every day to make that money. Yeah. They're willing to, subject, like, and I wish, not a complaint, because it's not something that wasn't really shown, but I would have liked to have seen a normal show at Stephen Yeun's Jupiter's Claim, because we do get to see one show, and he mentions how every day or every show a flying saucer comes down from the sky, and he's got this like incredible jacket with the flying saucer beaming the lights down, like it's Close Encounters. I would have liked to have seen one of those shows to see like what does normally happen.
Yeah, so that's
is it that the flying, is it that the thing in the sky takes the horse and the audience just claps because it's like he's feeding it the horse?
So, okay, that's where there's confusion, right? Because Sherry and I we were kind of wondering about that. And there's something at the end that we were wondering about too.
Because
But
because he keeps because OJ keeps telling him, "I'm going to sell you the horse, but I'd like to be able to buy it back." And Stephen Yun has like a look on his face, like, "I don't think I can do that."
right.
And I
So
think it's because he's feeding the horses.
right.
Okay.
So the way that I interpreted that whole thing, and I might be wrong, but like you're going to see it again, so you can confirm it for me. But basically, the way I can interpret it was that was the first time they were ever actually doing the show. I think that they've like maybe rehearsed it and stuff, but like essentially that he has been buying those horses and feeding them to this creature, but it's never come like directly to them like it did in this movie or in this sequence, right? And so, I mean, that's the way I interpret it was that like they were preparing for this show and they haven't actually done the show yet, and this is the first time. And then that's when the thing came right up to them and just swallowed them all whole, you know. But I was thinking we could essentially just go through like what I think are like the four main oh shit crazy scenes. Like there's basically the alien creatures in the horse stalls. There's the scene starting with that show, Stephen Young's show, and like essentially going up to when they're in the house and the blood. Then there is the ending, and I guess I'm forgetting something. So those three. I think if we do those three, because I really want to
go. If we're going to talk about Stephen Young, just mention Gordy's birthday.
That's the fourth one. That's the fourth one. So yeah, let's just do them in chronological order. So like the first one is like it's sort of like the red herring, right? Because you're kind of programmed to think that this is going to be like kind of like Signs, where it's like this rural alien invasion story, or there's some kind of rural alien story going on, and so you see little creatures, and holy shit, did my audience like you heard that kind of like that gasp, like oh, when they saw the thing that was just standing there at first, you know, with the
it kind of does like a zombie sit up, but it's also off kilter, and it's like moving kind of like junky and or janky and weird. And then another one just pops out of the horse stall.
Yeah,
and and that was also the first. Like Daniel Kaluuya is like, oh my god, there's aliens. Let me get my phone out to take a video. And then the second one pops out, and he just goes, nah, nope, and he turns to like get out of there.
Yeah, and then he slugs one of them. Yeah. But I think that scene is great because you're expecting that scene from Signs. Really, you're expecting that scene where the thing walks across the kid's birthday party, and that's kind of like it. But then it's like it's a misdirect. It's like, oh, these are just people part of the show over here. But it helps like create that tension, right? Then we have the scene that is truly, I think, the scariest part of the whole movie, and like I think it's the best part of the whole movie is essentially from when Stephen Young's show goes awry all the way up until the next day after the alien has kind of like attacked their house, right? I think that whole sequence is like, oh, it's gold right there. Because like when Stephen Young does his show, just the editing, everything is just so perfect. It's just building that tension you were talking about before, just building it up. And you don't know what's going to happen, but you do kind of think something bad is going to happen. And like they show his co-star from the Gordy show, and we saw her in the trailers. We're like, what the fuck is this? This is like a burned woman or something. And now we know why her face is so fucked up, and like it looks like there's something wrong with her hand too. And she's sitting in like one of those Rolo scooter things. But just her like looking at her makes you tense, right? And then they just get fucking sucked up. And one of the most fucked up things about this movie is the creature doesn't really make any noise itself. It's like what it has inside of it makes the noise, right? Like it's just the shrieking of.
So it reminded me of two things. It reminded me, and not in shape but it reminded me of, first of all, the bear in Annihilation.
Oh yeah. Good point.
Because you hear these awful sounds of terror, and you don't know if it's the monster or something else. And basically, and the other thing, and this is way out there, but did you ever see the movie Deep Rising?
Just like the beginning.
Okay, so Deep Rising came out in the late 90s, it was a very B-level sea monster movie starring Treat Williams and Famke Janssen. It was directed by Stephen Hopkins, who did The Mummy, 1999, the greatest movie ever made. and I unabashedly love it. It's a sea monster movie. I was going to love it no matter what. But I genuinely did love that movie. And the monster in that movie, so like one of the things is like it has these like tentacles that grab you and it swallows you whole, and like you're not dead. You like slowly dissolve in its in its body. And there's like a scene later on where like a tentacle gets cut and like a half dissolved body falls out, like John Voight in Anaconda, and the body's like, like, and so like it reminded me of that because when it sucks you up, those screams are you, like you're being like absorbed by this thing, and you don't really see it. You see this one scene of like it looks kind of, it looks like if a trampoline park went wrong. You know, like if you got or a bouncy house. If a bouncy house went wrong and like you fell into the bouncy house and like you were getting absorbed by the thick plastic and rubber around you. And like that sounds funny until you put yourself into that situation and you feel like all the oxygen going away. And it just looked like, I saw somebody on Twitter say there's a scene in this movie, and I'm assuming it's this one, that she's like, I never knew I was claustrophobic until I saw this one very short sequence in Nope. And I was like, well, I know what you're talking about, because that's exactly kind of how I felt. But yeah, those were the two movies it reminded me of, because of like it doesn't kill you right away. So like you're in it, you're in the monster, you're dead, you're going to die, but you're in it still alive, waiting to die, screaming. And also the sounds reminded me of The Bear in Annihilation.
Very good point. Yeah. I personally think that's like cinematic horror at its best, when you just get a very quick glimpse of something. You're like, what the fuck is happening? And it like sort of implies something horrific, like something that you don't even want to imagine. You just get a very brief glimpse of it. And that was really, really upsetting, because essentially they're like innocent people. They're not like people that are trying to slaughter someone. Stephen Yeun is like sacrificing horses, and that's bad. And also, of course, he made that sin of like living through this experience with Gordy and then like not learning from it. And so he's like paying the price. But just this whole group of like, there's women, children, everyone just gets sucked up. This woman who was mauled by a, chimpanzee has to now go get sucked up by this thing and killed. And that sequence is just so disturbing. And then you're kind of scared for Daniel Kaluuya, because like the way the ship works, you do see kind of like telltale signs, just like you see for the dinosaur in Jurassic Park, right? Where like the water starts shaking in the cups and stuff, and you hear the rumble. Or like in Jaws, where you see the fin, you're like, it's coming. Right, with this, like the sound goes off, right? Or like the music and stuff of everything goes off because technology, even your phone goes out, right? When this thing shows up. But it's so like quick in the way that it moves that like you almost don't have time to react. And I think it's really scary for him. You think, oh, something could happen to him. And then we cut to the house. Now, this is why I was mad at that second trailer, because in that second trailer, they show the blood pouring down onto the house. And if I had not seen that in the trailer, that would have been like 10 times more effective. Like
that I agree with. Yeah, I saw that second trailer and I went, what were they thinking? Like that's the big knock on trailers. Like I'm sure you saw the Halloween Ends trailer. Like the Halloween Ends trailer is, Chris even did a video on it where he mentioned they're calling it a trailer, but it's effectively just a teaser, and they show Michael Myers and Laurie Strode like interacting and fighting, but like we know that's going to happen, but they don't show anything. They show 1 minute and 10 seconds interlaced with footage from the last two Halloween movies and the original Halloween movie. So it's like they barely show you anything. Whereas that second Nope trailer, really, it gave too much. And it didn't hurt the movie for me. But yeah, that scene, I definitely agree with you. I think it would have been a lot more effective because the visual of that was amazing.
Right, the visual, because I remember that someone said something in a review saying that like you're going to see things in this movie that you've never seen before, and I think like the chimpanzee massacre with the shoe just standing upright, that's like something I'd never seen before. Then I remember specifically like a key like falls from the sky when all the blood is falling down, it just sticks in the ground, and I was like, oh, I don't think I've really seen this before. And with that sequence, the fake horse falls through Daniel Kaluuya's truck that he's driving, and then he's in there. And Angel goes to run out, and eventually in the morning, I think, and he's playing "I Wear My Sunglasses at Night," and he goes into the house, and the song "I Wear My Sunglasses at Night" just gets slowed down. And I mean, I thought that maybe that might be my favorite part of the whole movie is when Daniel Kaluuya is like slowly trying to get into the house, and it's all foggy out, and it's playing "I Wear My Sunglasses at Night" very, very slowly.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so fucking good. Yeah, so I mean that whole sequence, I feel like that is the best part of the movie from like the slaughter.
And
Good.
no, I think it's up there. I think the whole second hour to this movie is about 2 hours and 10 minutes. By the way, I stayed through the credits because I guess this is the Marvel effect is now if I don't have to use the bathroom, I'm a lot more willing to stay through the credits. And apparently, if you go to Universal Studios Hollywood, they have a Jupiter's Claim set now, and that it was filmed on. So there was that was at the end of the credits. It's like, come visit Jupiter's Claim now at Universal Studios Hollywood, and I was like, shit, I was there in February. Come on. But yeah, so, cool. So that would be cool. But what I was gonna say with that scene is that it's great. The whole last hour of this movie is great.
Yeah.
But I also liked, just to get back to the Jaws references.
Yeah.
There's also not just with the character beats and like the tracking of the monster, but it felt like the wavy arm inflatable tube men were almost like, and the kites that they were using were almost like the barrels that they were shooting.
Yeah.
And it was like, how did you know? Obviously, all the stories about it, how like the sharks weren't working in Jaws, so they needed to use the barrels to, let the fans know, let the moviegoers know the shark is there.
Right.
Like, the thing is around because the wavy arm inflatable tube men die down. Like,
right.
And then when it passes over, they come back up.
Right.
And so, like, Daniel Kaluuya riding the horse down while all the tube men are passing down behind him.
Yeah.
That reminded me of, them on the boat heading back into shore while Quint is going crazy and the shark, you see the barrels chasing the boat. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, I get it now. I get why people are making those comparisons. It does have that Jaws feeling to it, a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a good segue into that, like that last sequence there, that sequence of like them trying to get a picture of it, right? So they bring in Michael Wincott, and I didn't even know he was in the movie until that second trailer. And I actually love Michael Wincott, from The Crow and Alien Resurrection, and I mean a ton of other stuff, right? It's just his fucking voice is just so perfect.
So, no joke, I legit had a dream that I met him at like a Comic-Con, and I asked him about where he's from because of his voice and his accent, and we talked. That was it. That was my whole dream. I had a dream that I met Michael Wincott at a convention because I was so excited. Like, I loved him in The Crow, and then like he kind of just like I didn't see him for a while, right. So I was like, when I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh shit! Like the second you heard his voice, I was like, he has one of those indistinguishable voices. Like right. The second you hear it, he's not a big time actor that like a lot of people are gonna know, but the second you hear his voice, you go, oh shit, I know that voice.
Right.
So it was great. He stole the show in the small time that he had on screen.
Yeah. I mean, he plays this great character. He is kind of like the Quint, and his whole job as the cinematographer is to catch this perfect shot of this creature, right? And he kind of comes in. It's like the third act, and he's brought in, and they devise this plan that involves those inflatable guys that you were talking about, and they also have like walkies. They all have code names that are based upon like Monopoly pieces that they were using to set up their plan. There's the horse, the one horse Lucky, who has survived the whole thing, and then there's Jean Jacket, which they've named the creature because of this whole big little backstory between M and OJ, and like she wanted to train this horse called Jean Jacket, but the dad had Daniel Kaluuya train it, and it was for the Scorpion King movie too, which is there's all these like little references I just love. One of my go ahead.
Somebody pointed out again on Twitter. They said maybe the greatest piece of movie clothing ever used in a modern movie. It was Daniel Kaluuya wearing a set Scorpion King sweatshirt in the final act of this movie.
Right,
and then
right.
I love that they even make the reference that he's like, yeah, that was my first movie set. And then they ended up going with camels anyway. And I'm like, of course they went with camels. It was the desert.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, the movie, it's interesting because it does like make a commentary on movies too, you know, and like even M, right? Like her name, right? If you think about it, because her name is Emerald, like Emerald City, Wizard of Oz, right? And like one of the things I thought was really interesting too is that the very first, like the credit sequence for the movie when it starts, like the opening credits, is just the inside of like that thing's gullet, right? And you see that horse, which is the very first like film, right, of that jockey on the horse, which they reference in this movie. And I just thought that was real intriguing too. I'm like, is this just an elaborate credit sequence? Is it implying that like that's inside this thing? It has like this image of the jockey. I didn't really get that, but the whole thing is about like you know, Jordan Peele has had like right in your face commentary in his previous two movies, Get Out and Us, right, where it's about like Get Out is obviously about like you know interracial relationships and the way that black people are regarded by like elite white people, and then Us is about like you know there's like sort of like the poor class and like the upper class, the two sides, right? This it's more about like creatures being exploited, and I think also you know, like there's probably like a little bit of racial undertone too. You have these black ranchers and like, you know, they're trying to just like make money for themselves and they've sort of been overlooked, right? Um, but like with the movie itself, it really does become about the spectacle and that last sequence where you have them trying to get this thing, it just feels like Jaws. Even the score by the composer who did Us and Get Out, his name's Michael Abels. It kind of even sounds a little bit like a John Williams kind of score as they're kind of going from their different posts, right? And Angel kind of becomes that Richard Dreyfuss character at one point where he like gets attacked by the thing and you think he dies, but he like wrapped barbed wire around himself and he kind of like focused himself. And then of course, Michael Wincott is like Quint in the sense that he gets like just swallowed whole by the thing, right?
Yeah, it's all, yeah, exactly. Like, but he also, I mean, it was very obvious that he was like, you know, kind of an old and crazy, you know, like he comes with a handmade non-electric camera that he's, you know, doing like old fashioned
Cranking.
wine crank up. Uh, I what I was gonna say was I like that, like again, Daniel Kaluuya noticed that the kites, when it swallowed the that show horse, not an actual horse, like the prop horse, it got the kites, and the kites were like stuck in its throat.
Yeah.
And so I thought when Angel wrapped himself in barbed wire that that
Hmm.
was a way that they were going to try to kill it by like having it ingest barbed wire and
Yeah.
have that. Um, I just thought it was such a unique movie also just because of the, and I guess it's the last thing that I want to just bring up is just the shape of the monster itself or the creature itself when we finally see it in its full form at the end, because they figured out how to do something like that. I'd never seen anything like this type of creature before. It did. it does look very Lovecraftian when it like expands outward out of its flying saucer shape.
Yeah.
You get this like kind of Lovecraftian, like older gods type, especially with that like pulsating square. It
Yeah.
and like even in Lovecraft stories, like Lovecraft is really good at creating this terrifying atmosphere without ever really explaining to you what is going on. Like that's
Right.
like one of his major themes is the unexplained, and you know what's out there that we don't know is the scariest thing. And so I kind of like that connection here, where you know if you don't look at it, you'll be okay, but if you look at it to try to see exactly what it is and explain it to yourself, that's how you're going to get yourself killed by it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, with its final form and stuff, I do see that Lovecraft kind of imagery in there. Um, I'm going to sound like a real perv, but I kept thinking that when the square part came out, it kind of looked like a vaginal canal, like kind of giving birth. I know that's kind of fucked up, but like,
I was, yeah, I kept, there were times where I kept thinking, is there going to be something that comes out of there, or is that just like a lore of some kind?
yeah,
It, yeah, it was just, it was a wholly unique creature.
yeah,
Like, and to be able to do that in 2022 and have something like that nobody's really ever seen anything like it,
right,
that's really impressive. It's just
yeah.
the guy is a great filmmaker. He really is.
Right, right. I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to get at was that, the one guy did tweet out, can we crown him the greatest horror filmmaker of all time? And that's like crazy thing to say with a guy that's only got three movies, right? And obviously you have people like John Carpenter and Wes Craven and, Clive Barker, all these people exist before him, right? Um, but then I don't think I've ever truly seen a movie like Get Out, like Us, like Nope. They all have things that remind you of other movies, but like what they are about and how they're executed are very unique. And we can do our ranking now of his three movies if you like. But what I'd say about this movie is that like to where you get by the end of the movie, to where you get this crazy creature that's like undulating and like going after them, and it'll go after you if you make eye contact with it. And it's the idea that it's not even a spaceship; it's like a extraterrestrial creature that lives in the air. They made Jaws, but they set it in the desert, and they made the sky the ocean. They made a cloud a scary thing. Oh my God, that cloud over there, that white puffy cloud is scary because there's
That
a
was another
monster.
thing. I love when they show the video when Angel comes and he's like, "Watch the video. Tell me when you see it." And it's like he does like the where he speeds the time, like in
Yeah,
Paranormal Activity, where it's like you're watching them
yeah,
sleeping in the bed, and you're okay, like minutes, 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 and then they like start zooming through the hours, and then finally you see something move, and you. Bleh. That
yes,
was what it was like. You're like watching, and you're like, "Oh shit, that cloud has not moved the whole time," and like so you are in that scene. You are OJ. You're watching because you're like waiting to pick up on something,
yeah.
and it was done really really well.
Yeah, he's just fantastic. There's just so much to it to unpack. We didn't even really talk about that Gordy scene, but I kind of want to keep this under an hour because then it's easy for me to like put it out live too.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean the only other thing like I'll say about Jordan Peele and it's his movies have become. I tweeted this after the movie. His movies are effectively now, especially, they're events. Like, when Get Out came out, it was wait the guy from Key and Peele is doing a horror movie.
yeah,
Get the fuck out of here!
right,
And it was so good that everybody was like, okay, that was kind of crazy. He won an Oscar for that. What? Yeah, get out of here, right?
yeah,
Then Us came out. I really liked Us. It didn't have the amount of critical acclaim that Get Out did. How could it?
right,
But it it was like, okay, he's made two good horror movies. He didn't have a sophomore jinx. He's not a one-hit wonder. Good. Now with this movie, and I think this movie is going to make a shitload of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a matter of time before, like, where Jordan Peele becomes a horror director who's handed a blank check and basically told, go make whatever you want for however much money it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And his movies are events now, like, not just for horror fans. He has that crossover appeal. Like, I saw people in that movie theater last night who I'm willing to bet don't know a lot about horror movies, who, it was a crowd, and I'm not just talking like there were probably the entire upper section of the movie theater, was including my whole row, every seat was taken.
Yeah.
There were people dressed up to go to that movie, a 10-20 movie on a Friday. There were people dressed up to go to the movies.
Yeah.
Like in like dresses and outfits that I saw people wearing in New Orleans. And I'm like, people want to go and watch his movies. They want to go out and support him.
Yeah.
And especially for horror movie fans like us, his movies are going to be spectacles. And he not the greatest horror movie director of all time yet, but he is building quite the resume.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So let's talk about that resume real quick. Very quickly, my breakdown of his movies, I would rank Us as number 3. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just that I feel like once you kind of learn what the thing is going on, I think it becomes like, it kind of goes a little bit too comical and the threat isn't as intimidating. But I feel like Us is the scariest of all 3 of these movies. Us, then this movie, which I love this movie a lot, and then Get Out. But I think like Get Out is just like a pretty close to a flawless film. I think it's a pretty solid film. So those are my 3.
I think that Get Out, not only is it a great movie, but it came out at the perfect moment in time. Like, that is one of those rare cases where it was a perfect storm, where it just a movie that what it was trying to say, the socio-political tones of that movie, the social commentary that it had, it perfectly suited the time that movie came out. And I think from a historical, culturally significant standpoint, that will forever be his number 1. If he could top that at some point, then maybe we are actually having a conversation about if he's the best horror filmmaker of all time.
Yeah.
From a pure sitting in the movie theater and enjoying it standpoint, I might put this ahead of it. I have to see it again. I'm definitely going to see it again. I watched Get Out recently with Charlotte, probably a year or so ago. It holds up. It's still tense. And that ending is still one of the biggest, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh thank God moments.
Yeah.
And if he would have ended Get Out the way that he originally wanted to, it would have been up there with like The Mist for like the most gut busting, like heart-wrenching endings of all time. As a culturally, as a film historian, I try to be. I'd probably still put Get Out number 1 because of its importance to hit film. But I mean, I love this movie, and I could very easily see this being my number 1. And again, that's with no disrespect to Us, which is a really scary, very good horror movie.
Yeah.
So
those are our 3. Yeah, and look at that. We got it right under the 1 hour mark, too. Excellent job, Mr. Torkel.
Thank you.
That is our review of Get Out. Of Nope. If you want to see our review of Get Out, you can actually go see it, because when Chris was still on the channel, we did Danny, and Chris talking about Get Out. But that is it. You can go check out the Michael Moresi interview that we just put up this week. And then we have, let's see what the fuck else. I'm just interviewing a bunch of writers. And Danny always puts up content on this channel. So if you're not like and subscribe, please do. And, we'll have some more stuff for you later on this week. Let us know what you guys thought of Nope in the comments. We want to hear what you think too. All right. So then I'm glad you're back from Louisiana, and we will see you guys real soon.